Alright, so it's 30 minutes past 9. I welcome you to another exciting from the newspaper, streaming live from the premises of the Aces Hotel, Akpete, Ibadan. Good morning to you everyone listening to MFM 97.3, where we set the agenda and project the truth. And don't forget you can watch us live on Facebook at MFM 97.3. And as you're watching us, do well to like, comment, and share. Remember, don't forget this program is in form of 3 segments. The first segment is the weather forecast report of 3 major cities in Nigeria: the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, the commercial city of Lagos, and the vibrant city of Ibadan, where we are transmitting live from. What the second segment on the show is the headlines make round of Nigerian newspaper, and as usual, let's bring 4 newspapers to you every morning: the Punch newspaper, the Vanguard newspaper, the Guardian newspaper, and the Nigerian Tribune, where the last segment on the show is the details to the headlines. My name is SHAQEEROH AKINYEMI. Alright, so moving on to the first segment on the show, which is the weather forecast report. And the first city I'm bringing on is the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. At 10 a.m. in Abuja this morning is cloudy with 26 degrees Celsius. At 11 a.m. is cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius. And at 12 p.m. is cloudy with 29 degrees Celsius. At 1 p.m. is cloudy with 29 degrees Celsius. And at 2 p.m. is mostly cloudy with 29 degrees Celsius. At 3 p.m. is mostly cloudy with 30 degrees Celsius. And at 4 p.m. is mostly cloudy with 30 degrees Celsius. At 5 p.m. is intermittent clouds with 29 degrees Celsius, and at 6 p.m. is partly sunny with 27 degrees Celsius. At 7 p.m. is mostly clear with 26 degrees Celsius, and at 8 p.m. is clear with 25 degrees Celsius. At 9 p.m. is clear with 24 degrees Celsius, and at 10 p.m. is clear with 23 degrees Celsius. Up until 11 p.m. is partly cloudy with 23 degrees Celsius. Moving on to the commercial city of Lagos, at 10 a.m. in Lagos this morning is intermittent clouds with 28 degrees Celsius. At 11 a.m. is rain with 29 degrees Celsius, and at 12 p.m. is rain with 29 degrees Celsius. At 1 p.m. is rain with 29 degrees Celsius, and at 4 p.m. is rain with 30 degrees Celsius. At 3 p.m. is cloudy with 30 degrees Celsius, and at 4 p.m. is cloudy with 29 degrees Celsius. At 5 p.m. is cloudy with 29 degrees Celsius, and at 6 p.m. is cloudy with 29 degrees Celsius. At 7 p.m. is cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius, and at 8 p.m. is mostly cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius. At 9 p.m. is intermittent clouds with 28 degrees Celsius, and at 10 p.m. is intermittent clouds with 28 degrees Celsius. At 11 p.m. is intermittent clouds with 27 degrees Celsius.
Audio Jungle.
Moving on to the last city on the first segment, which is the vibrant city of Ibadan, where we are streaming live from. At 10 a.m. in Ibadan this morning is cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius. At 11 a.m. is mostly cloudy with 30 degrees Celsius, and at 12 p.m. is intermittent clouds with 31 degrees Celsius. At 1 p.m. is mostly sunny with 33 degrees Celsius, and at 2 p.m. is partly sunny with 32 degrees Celsius. At 3 p.m. is intermittent clouds with 31 degrees Celsius, and at 4 p.m. is intermittent clouds with 30 degrees Celsius. At 5 p.m. is mostly cloudy with 29 degrees Celsius, and at 6 p.m. is cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius. At 7 p.m. is cloudy with 26 degrees Celsius, and at 8 p.m. is cloudy with 25 degrees Celsius. At 9 p.m. is cloudy with 24 degrees Celsius, and at 10 p.m. is cloudy with 24 degrees Celsius. Up until 11 p.m. is cloudy with 24 degrees Celsius. Moving on to the second segment, which is the headlines make round of Nigerian newspaper. And the first newspaper I'm bringing on this morning is the Punch newspaper. The lead story on the Punch newspaper this morning says, ISWAP threat, Southwest, North Central State on high alert, and page 2 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
And there is one rider to that story that says, Governors, police strengthening surveillance as Aiyedatiwa Ododo, other Hajj camp Hamid ISWAP threat alert, and page 2 has the detail to that story. the line of the Punch newspaper this morning says, Electoral reform, Senate pushes INEC to defend election results. And there's one right out to that story that says, Tinubu swears in Amputon today. And page 2 and 41 has the analysis to that stories. Story on the Punch newspaper says, Reps probes Jonathan $460 million CCTV project, and page 41 has the detail to that story. Story on the Punch newspaper says, Sanwo-Olu monarchy hail Oyebanji at road inauguration, and page 14 has the detail to that story. Terrorism trial, Kalu list Wiki, Sanwo-Olu, Buratai among 23 witnesses, and page 7 has the detail to that story. Still on the Punch newspaper, another story says, stray bullets killed tricycle rider outside Lagos brothel, and page 4 and 5 has the analysis to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Story on the Punch newspaper says, Elumelo champions private sectors as catalyst for growth, and page 34 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
So moving on to the Vanguard newspaper, the latest story on the Vanguard newspaper says, Insecurity, defend yourselves. Governor Bako Charles Niger's resident, and page 6 has the detail to that story. And there is one right out to that story that says, votes to never negotiate or pay ransom to bandits, and page 6 has the detail to that story. Story on the Vanguard newspaper says, Anambra Showdown 2025, our campaign is Divine Project, Mass Movement, says Soludo, and page 25 has the detail to that story. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, another story says, ISWAP terror threat, Ondo Kongi government reassures citizens of safety, and page 5 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Aliko Dangote to sell 10% stake in refinery on NGX, and page 19 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Another story says, state complicity of fueling religious killing in Nigeria, state faith leaders, and page 8 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Electoral hacks, burden of proof in election matter must shift to INEC, says Senate, and page 9 has the detail to that story. And the Another story on the Vanguard newspaper says ASU suspend one strike, gives federal government 1 month ultimatum, and page 9 has the detail to that story. Story on the Guardian newspaper says federal government begins public finance reforms ahead of new tax regime in January, and page 6 has the detail to that story. Nigeria won't accept any deportees from US, Tuga insists, and page 2 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Another story on the Guardian newspaper says federal government releases 32.9 billion naira to PHCs, asks communities to track spending, and page 5 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Northern leaders back Tinubu as opposition cautions APC alleged attacks, and page 6 has the detail to that story. Guardian newspaper, another story says Kano lists Sanwo-Olu, Wike, Umahi, Malami, other as witnesses in terrorism trial, and page 8 has the detail to that story. Story says Senate silence on earlier voting shifts electoral body into proof to INEC, and page 3 has the detail to that story. Federal government raises concern over crude supply to refineries, glass flaring, and page 3 has the detail to that story. And the last story on the Guardian newspaper says ASU continues negotiations, suspend 2 weeks warning strike, and page 30 has the detail to that story.
Audio Jungle.
To the last newspaper on the second segment, which is Nigerian Tribune. In the list story on Nigerian Tribune says ASU suspends 2 weeks warning strike, rejects 35% salary increase offer. And there's one right there to that story that says gives federal government 1 month window to address demand, and page 3 has the analysis to that stories.
Jungle.
Nigerian Tribune says IMPI reverses inflation rate projection to 14% from 17% for December, and page 6 has the detail to that story. Rises by 60% as central bank shifts reserves away from US dollar assets, and page 5 has a detail to that story. tanker explosion, death row East 42 in page 31 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Nigerian Tribune says ISWAP threat, Kongi Ondo move to dose tension, and page 11 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
And there are two riders to that story. The first rider says strategic security measures reinforce, surveillance intensify, says Kongi, and the last rider says we are in constant contact with security agencies. Ondo, and page 11 has the details to that stories.
Audio Jungle.
Election petition Senate to shift burden of proof to INEC, and page 3 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Story on Nigerian Tribune says health being too skinny might kill quicker than obesity, says study, and page 11 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Alright, I've come to the end of the second segment. Before we divert into the last segment, let's go on a break. Stay tuned, I'll be right back.
The Aces Hotels and Conference Center is one and only event place with a clear difference and tasteful excellence here in the ancient city of Ibadan. For your next and upcoming event, whether marriage engagement, wedding reception, anniversaries, conferences, seminars, or birthday, the Aces Hotels and Conference Center is affordable and fully equipped with all imaginable ultra-modern facilities for your total convenience without headache, security, power, environment, parking space, and royal service by their staff. All roads lead to the Aces Hotel and Conference Center today at number 2.5 Ijokodo Akbete Akufo Road, Akere, Ibadan. For booking and more information, call 080-8746-7420, 080-9744-1898, or 080-2869-0012. The Aces Hotels and Conference Center, where comfortability speaks than words.
Ìgbà tó tó gbá ní ṣe baálé ọba gbọ́migbọ́mi, kọ̀ǹkọ̀ tó tó kọ̀ǹkọ̀ ní ṣe ọba wọn lálẹ́ odò. Bó jẹ́ tìròyìn tó kojú owó, orin tó dùn ún gbọ́ létí, àṣà, ẹ̀fẹ̀ àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ ìṣítí lọ́lọ́kanjọ̀kan. Ìkànnì MFM rédíò ọba ló jẹ́ láwùjọ rédíò.
FM rédíò and tẹlifíṣàn ìkànnì tó jálẹ̀jákò ni gbogbo ẹ máa gbọ́ ìròyìn tó kù, ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ìgbà gbogbo, ìránnilétí àṣà àdáyébá ní AMFM ló wà. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ a máa gbọ́. Orúkọ tèmi ní olóyè Adérẹ̀mí Adédèjì Ọlọ́fààná mọ́ǹtì ọbàjẹ́ ti ìlú Ẹdẹ.
Gbogbo ará ilé èrò ọ̀nà ẹ wá gbọ́ o. MFM rédíò ni ẹ mọ́ gbọ́ lójoojúmọ́ nígbà gbogbo. Ìròyìn àsìkò lọ́lọ́kan-ò-jọ̀kan, eré ìdárayá, orin tó dùn gbọ́sẹ̀ tí àtàwọn ètò tí ń kọ́ni lọ́gbọ́n. Ẹ gbọ́ wa kétékété lórí ayélujára wọ̀nyí, lórí Facebook àti MFM TV, lórí Twitter
rọrùn bí àdán òsì. ẹ má yí kúrò ń bẹ̀ fún ìròyìn tí ò lábùlà, ìròyìn eré ìdárayá, orin tó dùn pálítí, àṣà, ẹ̀fẹ̀, ọ̀rọ̀ ìṣítí, gbogbo tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ gbọ́, gbogbo tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ mọ̀ lójú kan ṣoṣo òun náà ló wà ní ìkànnì NFM rédíò àti TV. àjà ló lẹ́rù irọ́ ní pẹ́pẹ́pà.
gbogbo náà gbogbo bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ ní gbọ́ tọba wọn fẹ́ gbọ́ mi dáadáa tó o sì fẹ́ máa rí ọ̀wù dáadáa AMFM and TV oníkọ́ lọ tọba ti débẹ̀ gbogbo bí kíbi lórí social media wàá bá wọn pàdé wo májè tán májè kéde kó gbé ọ̀tún àbáyé o tèmi ni ó ṣe o tí mo sọ yìí òní ọgbọ́ AMFM and TV iléeṣẹ́ tó ní àbá àdéjẹ́ àgbà ló kọ̀ mí o sálámù alaykum.
So welcome back to the show. It's still from the newspaper. Don't forget you can watch us live on Facebook at him 97.3 FM. Now touching us, do well to like, comment and share. We are now in the last segment of from the newspaper, which is the details to the headlines. As the first I'm bringing on this morning says, Southwest North Central State on high alert. Following the Department of the State Service alert on Tuesday that there was a plot by the Islamic State West African Province to attack Ondo and Kogi State. States have activated surveillance and counter-terror measures against ISWAP plot. Kogi share a boundary with 10 states. They include Benue in the east, Anambra in the south, Enugu in the southeast, Edo in the southwest, and Hondo in the west. Other High Ekiti in the west, Kwara in the west, Niger in the north, Nasarawa in the northeast, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Concerned by the development, the state governor has called on the residents to remain calm and vigilant, assuring that they have fortified the security system to thwart any attack. The Department of the State Service had on Tuesday allowed the Nigerian Army on an alleged plot by the ISWAP to launch coordinated attack on the communities in Ondo and Kogi State. In a confidential letter addressed to the commander of the Tesu Artillery Bridge, Akure Secret Police warned of imminent attack by the ISWAP terrorists and how their heightened surveillance and security development across vulnerable areas. According to the document, the targeted communities in Ondo State include Eriti Akoko and Hunya Akoko in the Akoko Northwest local government area, as well as Owu Town at the headquarters of Owu local government area. The security agency called for immediate action by the army and other relevant forces to prevent the attack, stressing the importance of community vigilance. The Ondo State Police Public Relations Officer Olayinka Ayanlade confirmed the development, saying the police were already acting on the intelligence. Speaking on the terror plot on Wednesday, Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa all the residents of the state to be vigilant and report any suspicious movement or stranger in their communities to the security agencies. In a statement issued by a State Commissioner for Information, Mr. Idowu Ajanoku, the government said it was aware of the security threat and it has been taking necessary precautions to avert it. Despite the official mention, scarce residents in the communities under the threat have appealed to the state government and security agencies not to take the threat lightly. A resident of Owo community, retired secondary school teacher, Mr. Olalekan Yusuf, says since the alert has come to the notice of the security stakeholders, the government they should have the proactive in protection of lives and property of the people of the state. According to the residents, the commercial bus driver in Okeadwe, the headquarters of Okoko Northwest local government area, Mr. Rufus Alabi, said although the community as on the neighboring communities were calm and peaceful, the government must do everything to avert any possible attack that could disrupt the peace. Speaking with the Punch correspondent as the special advisor of Osun State Governor on security matter, Mr. Samuel Joe said the security matters. Said the Adeleke administration has acted to prevent infiltration of boundaries communities long before alarming the DSS was made public. Ojowo called the residents to cooperate with the government and security agencies by making available timely information regarding suspicious movements in their area. Said boundary communities with other states are being monitored closely. On his part, Kogi State government called on residents of the state to remain calm and vigilant following reports of the planned terrorist attack in parts of the state and Ondo. In a statement by the Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Fanwu, the government described the intelligence report as a step forward victory, noting that it demonstrated the proactive work for DSS and other security agencies in protecting Nigeria from criminal elements. In response on the ISWA plot, the Kwara State Police Command says it has intensified surveillance and strengthened collaboration with other security agencies. Nigeria imports 15 billion litres of petrol despite Dangote refinery output. Despite increasing refinery capacity, Nigeria imported 69% of the 21 billion litres of petrol in consumed between August 2024 and the first 10 days of October 2025, according to data from NDMPRA. Dario Olawanyi reports. Nigeria imported 15.1 billion litres of premium motor spirit petrol between August 2024 and the first 10 days of October 2025, representing nearly 69% of the total national petrol supply during the 15-month period. This is despite the fact that the Dangote refinery started petrol production in September 2024. Figures from Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority show that total PMS supply for the period stood at 21.8 billion litres, with 6.67 billion litres or 31% coming from domestic refinery. The data titled Vast Dangote Supply Remnants PMS Daily Average Supply, August 2024 to October 2025, captures supply trend over 15 months, highlighting a gradual rise in local production and a corresponding drop in imports. According to the breakdown, imported petrol averaged 44.60 million litres per day in August 2024 and rose to 54.30 million litres per day in September 2024, making the peak of import depending during the period. This was the time when the Dangote refinery began PMS supply to the local market. It was noted that the imports began a decline, steadily falling to 24.15 million litres per day by January 2025, 19.26 million litres per day in September 2025, and 15.11 million litres per day within first 10 days of October 2025. The decline in petrol imports showed that the Dangote refinery is gradually taking a significant share of the market, but this comes with a stiff competition from the petrol importers, who repeatedly accuse Aliko Dangote of shifting competitors with consistent price reduction. As the domestic refinery grew consistently throughout the period, local production, which stood at 6.43 million litres per day in September 2025, increased to 22.66 million litres per day in January 2025, before stabilizing around 20 million litres per day in subsequent months. By October 2025, the Dangote refinery was producing an average of 18.93 million litres per day, exceeding imports for that month. The data also showed notable supply fluctuation across the months, as the total daily PMS supplies peaked to 60.73 million litres in September 2024, before dropping to 2025 and further to 34.4 million litres by October 2025. The variators reflect shifts in both import availability and refinery operations. This is an indication that daily consumption has dropped significantly from an average of 60.73 million litres per day in September 2024 to 51.57 million litres in July 2025, 41.86 million in August, 34.86 million in September, and 34.4 million per day in the first 10 days of October 2025. Recall that the federal government totally regulated the petrol sector in September last year, stopping the controversial fuel subsidies, which Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited was paying on imported petrol. A month-by-month analysis revealed that the highest domestic output was recorded in January 2025, with a daily average of 22.66 million litres, while the lowest was in August 2024, when no local production was recorded because Dangote had yet to commence production at that time. The highest total supply was in September 2024 at 60.13 million litres per day, followed by October and November 2024, when total daily supply average of 56.1 and 55.75 million litres respectively. By the end of the review period, cumulative petrol imports has reached 15,009.85 million litres, while domestic production amounted 6,772.44 million litres, giving a combined total of 21,682.29 million litres supplied over 444 days between August 2024 and October 1st to 10, 2025. The figure underlined the ongoing transition in Nigeria petrol supply structure, showing gradual but measurable increase in contribution of domestic refinery. However, the data also confirmed that they continue to dominate the national supply mix for the most of the period. It could be recalled that while marketers insist on importation, the Dangote refinery has been exporting petrol to other countries, including the United States. The 650,000 refinery has consistently boasted of its capacity to meet local fuel demand while exporting to foreign countries. Aliko Dangote's plan for building a refinery was to end Nigerian dependence on import fuel, despite being an oil production nation. However, marketers have continued to import petrol into Nigerians, competing heavily with the refinery. Recently, the Dangote refinery challenged marketers to bring their truck for fuel loading, boasting it was at over 310 million litres of petrol in its tank. The vice president of the Dangote Group, Devakumar Edwin, stated that the marketers were allowed to bring any truck for loading at the gantry, and the refinery has enough fuel for the local market for export. The Dangote refinery had in September exported more fuel of foreign nations when Saudi Aramco and other Middle East Gulf closed refinery for maintenance. A senior officer of the Dangote refinery told a Punch correspondent that the $20 billion Lekki-based plant exports large volumes of premium motor spirits, petrol, aviation fuel, and diesel to other countries in August. The official, who spoke in confidence as he was not authorized to speak with the press, said they export PMS diesel and aviation fuel. The Punch correspondent gathered that the Dangote refinery has supplied two long-range cargoes of fuel to Middle East Gulf region between June and July. According to the Argus media, the heavy refinery turnaround season in the Mid-East Gulf was expected to exacerbate on already tight gasoline market in the fourth quarter, prompting the key regional supply to boost imports. In February, the Dangote refinery said it sold 2 cargoes of aviation to fuel to Saudi Aramco. Aliko Dangote announced that the refinery achieved a significant milestone by successfully exporting the 2 cargoes of jet fuel to Saudi Aramco, and the world's largest oil producer. Dangote refinery said the refinery was reaching the ambitious goal it set for itself as it ramped up production. Data underscored Nigeria's ongoing transition from heavy reliance on import petrol to more balanced supply, structure driven by domestic refinery, while the other countries depend significantly on foreign fuel. The steady growth in local production, particularly from the Dangote refinery, signals a gradual shift toward its sufficiency. However, the competition between the import and the refinery, coupled with the market prices challenge, suggests that achieving fuel local dominance will take time, with refinery capacity expanding its consumption pattern. Adjusting Nigeria appears to be entering a new phase in its downstream petroleum landscape. One refinery described domestic household, reduced imports and potential to finalize decades of fuel dependence.
Audio Jungle.
Senate pushes INEC to defend election results. The state on Wednesday called on the transfer of the burden of proof in the election petition from aggrieved candidates to the Independent National Electoral Commission, the body that conducts the supervised elections. The proposal formed a key part of deliberation as lawmakers debate the general principle of the bill seeking to repeal on 2022 Electoral Act as an enact a new Electoral Act 2025. The move, they argue, would make the electoral process more credible, transparent, and accountable. But the Senate's fresh proposal sharply divided opposition parties, with the People Democratic Party warning that the move could undermine democracy. The proposal, which was formed part of the deliberation on the new Electoral Act 2025 bill, debated on Wednesday, seeks to make the electoral umpire an organizer and regulator of elections, primarily responsible for defending the integrity of poll its conduct. Lawmakers backing the proposal include Senate President Godwin Akpabio and the Senate's Saraki Dixon, all that INEC should bear the burden of providing the elections free and fair, credible, describing it as a long overdue form of strengthening democracy ahead of 2027 poll. The lawmakers also believe if it's signed to the law, it will make a turning point in the bill to reform Nigerian electoral framework ahead of 2027 general election. But several senators, including Senate President Godwin Akpabio, insisted that INEC, as the organizer of the regulator of elections, should be held responsible for defending its integrity and the poll it conducts. Leading the debate, Senate Saraki Dixon, Bayelsa West, urged that the reform was a long overdue if Nigeria must strengthen its democracy. The Senate's debate on the sweeping Electoral Act 2025 bill, sponsored by the Senator Simeon Lalong, chairman of the Senate Committee of INEC, has told the other reform to retime the result transmission, stripping Senate Electoral Commission for local government pool power, and sanction for defecting lawmakers. Senate leader Akpenyemi Bamidele has pledged that the electoral reform produced will conclude whether before December to allow for implementation well ahead of 2027 general election.
Audio Jungle.
Goodluck Jonathan's $460 million CCTV project, the House of Representatives on Wednesday resolved to investigate the $460 million Chinese loan secured by President Goodluck Jonathan administration to procure and install closed-circuit television in strategic location within the Federal Capital Territory to enhance security in the national capital. The resolution of the House followed the adoption of the motion of urgent public impulse moved by the member representing Isologutu Umadoyi Federal Constituency, Abia State, a mobile gathering Wednesday plenary. In 2010, the federal government took a loan of $460 million to install CCTV cameras in the Federal Capital Territory, but the project was not executed. The Ninth House in 2019, through its Committee on Finance, took the Ministry of Finance to task on the status of the project and failed to execute the project. The Minister of Finance at that time, ZENO, told the committee that the loan was being serviced by but failed to give details on the status of the project. In 2023, a federal high court in Abuja ordered the federal government to make public details of how the $460 million was spent after listening prayers in the suit brought before it was socio-economic and accountability project. Speaking on the substance of the motion Wednesday, the lawmaker said that the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, acting in good conscience, embarked on the need to curb insecurity in the federal capital Abuja by installing CCTV cameras around strategic areas to monitor the wholesome activities with the view of preventing crime and placing surveillance on criminals and apprehending them. Oga lamented that despite this urgent investment as well as the financial burden Nigerians is subjected to by the way of servicing loan, the impact of the CCTV is not felt in any manner rather than abating. The crime rather so in Abuja, leading to daily reports of deaths arising from unmonitored crimes around the federal capital. He further held that the situation which has been seen Nigeria paying heavily for the loan obtained from the Chinese banks to execute the non-functional CCTV contract, undertaken curiously also by the Chinese firm and the contractor, leave the country in a lose-lose nightmare. In his contribution, Edo lawmaker Bale Owasaru called the lawmaker to rise up to their responsibilities by asking tough questions. Following the adoption of the motion, the House resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the status of the project and submit report to the House for further legislative action.
Audio Jungle.
Obama honors Fela Kuti in a new broadcast, Fear No Man. Former U.S. President Barack Obama has paid a tribute to legendary Afrobeat artist Fela Anikulapo Kuti, describing him as a unique figure in the musical history who mixed art with activism. He described Fela as a musical genius from Nigeria who forced funk, jazz and soul into the become known worldwide as Afrobeat. Obama said in a video posted on his social media account on Wednesday night, where he urged fans to listen to a podcast series dedicated to the story of Fela. Currently in an episode 4, the broadcast traced the genealogy of Fela revolution when he was an 8-year-old boy watching his mom make history. According to the producer, Fear No Man will not only take feature figure in his art but also unexpectedly members of Kuti fame, including Fela's children, Yeni Kuti and Femi Kuti, as well as his grandson, Made Kuti, also the son of Femi. Another story on the show this morning says stray bullet kills tricycle rider outside Lagos brothel. A yet to be identified tricycle rider has been killed by a stray bullet outside a brothel in Badore area of Ajah, Lagos State. Punch learned that the incident occurred on Sunday, October 12, 2025. It was gathered that the deceased has gone to the brothel to relax after the day work, but later stepped out to purchase an item from a nearby shop. The assassinates, whose number could not be ascertained day after storm the area, began shooting sporadically. A police source in the area who spoke to the Punch Metro on Wednesday on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to the matter, said one of the stray bullets struck the tricycle rider, killing him on the spot. A resident who was privy to incident but did not want his name to be framed due to the nature of the incident told the Punch that the attack was carried out by suspected cultists. Punch Metro reported on October 2 that a fresh graduate from Osun State College of Technology, SUBCRIBE, simply identified as Taurid, was struck by a stray bullet during a clash between rival cult groups in the community. The killing adds to a growing list of cult-related shootings that have been witnessed in some parts of the state in the past few months.